already submitted or will submit letters of comment, and those too will be found in that section of the proceeding records. The Commission feels that for issues of the nature of this application, it's valuable to allow for in-person input as well as written submissions. So we are here today, we're convened today to hear your thoughts on this application. As I've already said, because the submissions we hear today will form part of the record of this proceeding, it's important that we set some processes and rules in place to ensure fairness, efficiency, and relevance. First, relevance. This application relates to the advanced metering project in the Fortis service area. We want to hear from those who could be affected by the project. For this reason, we have quite deliberately restricted submissions to residents of the Fortis service area and the several municipal-owned utility areas that receive service from Fortis. Second is fairness. We have deliberately gone through a process of registration and ordering of the submissions through Commission Council. Late requests require leave to participate if they can be accommodated. We expect the presentations to be made in an organized and civil and respectful tone. Presentations will be limited to 15 minutes maximum. There is not a requirement to use the entire time that you've been allocated. Everyone who has been accepted to present will be given an opportunity, and so I request that there be no interruptions. The Commission panel may, however, have questions of a presenter at the end of their submission. Third is efficiency. It's helpful if the submission is on topic and concise. If a prior speaker has covered essentially what you want to say, I encourage you, rather than repeating what people have said before you, that you adopt and support what they had said earlier. Now, this suggestion is made not in a way to fetter in any way your ability to make your thoughts known. So it's just a suggestion, but you can certainly cover whatever material you think is important. Another point, because your comments today will be recorded on a transcript, please identify yourself as you begin your presentation and confirm for the record that you are either a direct customer of Fortis BC or a customer of a municipal electric utility that takes service from Fortis BC. I would also like to just speak to the press for a moment. Mr. Fulton raised this issue. Firstly, I welcome the press today, and I'm pleased you came. But we are convened today for input from the public, and the purpose of the session today is to hear that input. People have come here today to provide that input to the Commission, and I don't want them to be interrupted or intimidated or embarrassed in any way through the taking of photographs. So I would ask you to refrain from taking photographs during the presentations today. Following this session, the Commission Secretary will make a brief presentation about the Commission, what we do, and how what we do relates to the hearing matter that's before us. So I encourage those of you who have an interest in perhaps having a better understanding of the Commission and its work and how this particular hearing relates to the Commission and relates to you in terms of how you can access information and so on, I invite you to stay following the presentation, and Ms. Hamilton will deal with that. Mr. Fulton, do you have any procedural matters for us to deal with?
I have a series of leave applications, Mr. Chairman. The schedule can accommodate all these applications, so I will name out the individuals who have applied late and do require leave because they've applied late to speak, and with the recommendation that they be granted leave to speak. The individuals are as follows: Amy Beaulieu, B-E-A-U-L-I-E-U, Bev Allen. So if those individuals may be granted leave to speak.
And you feel we can accommodate those within the timetable that we have this afternoon?
Well, either this afternoon or this evening, it depends on how much of the 50 minutes each of the people take who will fit in for this afternoon.
Okay, well, we'll certainly provide leave for those people to make presentations with the understanding that we may have to bump one or two of them into the evening session if we run out of time this afternoon. We do have a short period of time between the evening or the afternoon and the evening session. I do want an opportunity for Ms. Hamilton to provide her presentation. So with that, I'd ask you then, Mr. Fulton, to call the first presenter.
Yes, and if I might, before I do that, Mr. Chairman, if someone who's here this afternoon who is a late registrant is bumped into the evening, it will mean that they will be later on the evening list because there are people who contacted me at the time who have been placed on the evening list already. So with that comment, then, Mr. Chairman, I'll call the first speaker, Marty Enns.
Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Marty Enns. I live in Kelowna. I'm serviced by the City of Kelowna Utilities, which is in the process, I understand, of being sold to Fortis. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon and voice my concerns about these smart meters. I'm confident that if this commission examines the facts as I have done, you will agree that at this point in time there is overwhelming, irrefutable, documented evidence to justify a moratorium on smart meters, as recommended by scientific reports of international scientists and experts, which is listed at the end of the document. These reports state, I'm just going to touch on a few things that I've highlighted. Actions are warranted. A moratorium, for example, halt, are warranted based on scientific evidence, where the consequence of doing nothing in the short term may cause irreparable public health harm. One of the reports suggests that the burden of proof of safety rests with the producers and providers of EMF-producing technologies, not with the users and consumers. Independent scientists and medical experts from around the world emphasize that governments, utility commissions, and the electric utilities are responsible to the public, and it is their duty to educate and provide reliable and comprehensive information on impacts from wireless meters and immediately implement measures following the precautionary principle. The reports adamantly recommend that the rollout of smart meters should be halted for numerous reasons. I will quote a few. There is sufficient scientific evidence exists today to support halting. There should be convincing evidence before marketing that products do not cause health harm. Existing public safety limits are inadequate and obsolete. Significant unanswered questions still exist about what levels of radio frequency microwave radiation will be produced by these meters. It is not known if exposure levels violate federal safety limits. Involuntary exposure to radio frequency radiation from smart grid type systems subject the entire population to future health risks. It is impossible to protect oneself against electromagnetic fields. Even walls do not block radio frequency radiation. This, in particular, is of serious concern to me personally, because directly across the hall from my apartment condominium is a bank of 16 electrical meters. Each of the 86 units in my 13-story building has its own meter. In addition to 86 meters, the roof already has approximately 12 various wireless antennas. How can I possibly know the level of my exposure? Many known health impacts have been documented. For example, serious adverse health effects include brain tumors, Alzheimer's, breast cancer, effects on the immune system, neurological diseases, and more. The following are particularly vulnerable to RF exposures. People who have medical conditions or implants, children, the elderly, and those on some medications, certain tissues and organs, specifically eyes, testes, and other ball-shaped organs. Prolonged exposure to disrupt biological processes that are fundamental to plant, animal, and human growth and health. Higher energy waves can actually destroy chemical and molecular bonds. Electronic interference is also a major issue. Number one on this list has to be critical care, medical equipment, and medical implants, such as pacemakers and deep brain stimulators. Parkinson's disease patients with deep brain stimulators have reported the device's reprogramming or electrodes shut down. One manufacturer, Medtronic, has issued a warning for these patients, or to these patients rather. Other devices and equipment at risk are security systems, surveillance monitors, wireless intercoms, telephones, electronic equipment, and electric appliances. In addition, there are important installation issues that need to be addressed. I've listed a number of them, but we'll just specifically here mention two. Neither the utility nor the consumer know what amount of RF wireless exposure may already be present before installing a smart meter. Consumers who've already eliminated all or some possible wireless exposures from their property and lives may now face excessively high exposures from smart meters. The reports emphasize that safety limits for public exposure to EMFs need to be developed on the basis of interaction among not only scientists, but also public health experts, public policymakers, and the general public. For all these reasons, I respectfully request that this commission withhold approval of Fortis' application to install smart meters until all of the above issues have been addressed to the satisfaction of the public. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Enns provided me with a written copy of her presentation, and if I would ask that that be marked Exhibit E-28.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Carol Kurgan.
Good afternoon. first time I've ever done a panel of this sort, so it's a very interesting experience. I am a citizen here. I am a taxpayer. I own a property. I do live within the city of Kelowna power area, and Fortis right now send me my bill for my gas right now. So I'm definitely in the area covered by this. My name is Carol Kurgan, as we just called me up. I have a UBCO anthropology degree, and for me, that gave me clarity that I really see things as connected. And so while we're talking about one thing, we're talking about electrical, smart grid, advanced metering process here, we as humans are interconnected in everything we do and eat and are exposed to. And so being able to pinpoint adding one more thing into the melange for me is obviously a challenge, and in many ways we're an experiment. Our bodies are being exposed to many things. That said, I know that I can choose to have a wireless computer. I can choose to have a wireless cell phone. I can choose to have portable phones in my home. I can also choose to unplug those, and the more I've just learned recently, I'm very inclined to do that. This is not something like that. From what I've been understanding in the application with BC Hydro in the other areas where they're servicing, this has been pushed upon like people who are saying they don't want it. They've been told that basically they'll be re-educated to accept them, or you can unplug your power system. I really don't think that this is something we as people that have a power system and a wonderful utility should be looking at having to do. I know that our issues, as Mrs. Enns talked about, the fact that some homes will not just have one of these backed onto where it could be a bedroom, but they can have many. In my home, I certainly have one wall where it would be impacted. I've been understanding that these units have been having fires sometimes when they're installed. The liability has been placed on the homeowner for having inadequate wiring, perhaps. When a meter is changed, not highly skilled electricians are sometimes contracted to do the metering change. So fire damage, the fact that people have gotten these smart meters in other areas and had their bills change dramatically, it doesn't make sense that that can happen, and certainly not just overnight that suddenly our utility costs go through the roof. I know that my understanding of the BC utility system is that we work on hydroelectric power, not coal or nuclear or some of the other things where the peak generation of power is an issue that we really need to manage. It's another scenario here where we are blessed with one of the best power systems, thanks to WAC Bennett and our hydroelectric system. Our chance to have power and conform, yes, to this Energy Act, but there's different ways. It was made very clear to me that we did not need to go with this radio signal form of smart grid technology. We could go with a fiber optic. There were different means of installing this technology, which is what make a lot of sense, because there is less health impacts and you get the same outcome of conforming with the energy bill that we have, which we do want to reduce our carbon and reduce energy in general. One of the things I hold really dear to my heart is the precautionary principle. And I know that when we're looking at decisions like this, it's very important to include being aware that when the unknown isn't necessarily safe, that governmental agencies need to be vigilant and not have things like this as involuntary environmental exposure, because in fact we trust that our higher-ups, our governments, and our commissions, such as yours, are trying to make the best decision on the public's behalf. I know that there was, last year, the Union of BC Municipalities made a decision of passing a resolution for a moratorium on this technology. And from what I understand, the decision was already made with contracts to take on this direction, but I don't believe that that in itself is any part of a democratic process or one that looks to the public good. And I know that this commission has the public good as a measurement of decision making, so I hold that there is a really good place here for input from the public to ask for our public good to be protected. The fact that the World Health Organization has declared the radio frequency electromagnetic fields as possible carcinogens concerns me. You know, again, I'm saying I can choose these other things I expose myself to or take them out, but this one is, as I understand, one of 3 smart grid applications coming at us if we have this one come. We do have a direction of having water meters with a similar system and potentially gas. And so if we allow 1, is it times 3? If it's bad times 1, times 3 has got to be really bad. One of the things about being human and being a life form is that these kind of negative effects are cumulative, and we don't know what 30 years from now is going to bring. We do know that many people are fine being exposed to things in a short period that we've lived through already, all of us, but we don't know the long term. And I really would ask that this commission consider that we are looking at something that isn't known, and perhaps 25 years from now, you could look at this and say, oh, are we ever glad we didn't do that? Because now we're seeing all these forms of cancer, and it was happening in the areas where they were installed. And I'd implore that that's something you take very seriously. It is very important to look at how other countries and other parts of the world have dealt with it. It seems that North America embraces some of these technologies with a lot less of a shield for the public good than, say, Europe has. And the fact that radio frequency, even as we brought in the wireless technology, it wasn't really viewed through health tests and things for the routers and other things we had. And that's a problem, absolutely, but again, it's a matter of choice. Our power meters are very, very important. Most of us really like our electricity, and I really don't like the option of being told if you don't like it, turn off your power. I believe this is something we don't need to conform to, and I'd ask you to say no to advance meter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for notes and exhibit. Thank you. Ms. Kurgan's speaking notes might be marked the next E-exhibit, which will be E29. Is Ken Patrick here? All right, well, we'll come back to Mr. Patrick. Jerry Flynn?
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity. I do live in Kelowna. I have my power provided by Fortis. I have an electronic warfare background, 27 years in the military, 22 in electronic warfare, signals intelligence, and radio warfare. I studied this particular situation now for the last 2 years. While I'm not an expert, I certainly know quite a bit about it. If I may, given that Bill 17, the Clean Energy Act, mandated that all homes and dwellings in BC will be fitted with smart meters. Given that Fortis BC proposed to use wireless technology incorporating never before tried and extremely controversial pulse millisecond-long bursts of microwave emissions to control, manage, and maintain their envisaged mesh grid net concept in residential neighborhoods of unsuspecting, uninformed, trusting, and completely defenseless men, women, and children, not to mention all other living things, including plants, insects, fish, birds, animals, bees, etc. Given that no national government on earth has conducted its own science-based studies of the low-level, long-term, non-thermal biological effects of EMR on humans and other life forms to ensure that such radiation is safe. Scientists do not yet know if any level of EMR is safe for humans on a continuous basis, 24/7, 365 days a year in perpetuity. In 1975, 37 years ago, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency warned all of its own personnel about the risks from low-level microwave radiation, the same thing as Boris is talking about. Illnesses ranging from microwave sickness, flu-like symptoms, depression, suicidal tendencies to cancer and leukemia, 37 years ago. 33 years ago, 1979, the U.S. NIOSH, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Healthy, and also OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Agency, recommended that precautionary measures be taken to protect workers from unwarranted exposure to EMR. That was 33 years ago, long before any of this wireless stuff came on our scene. 22 years ago, 1990, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, in a draft report to the U.S. government, recommended that EMR should be classified as to be carcinogen. 22 years ago. When that report was released, the industry and the military and the software development firms jumped all over it to the point where the EPA withdrew it back in-house. They simply removed the recommendation and released the same conclusions. In 1990, 19 years ago, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration issued a memorandum in which it stated that the data strongly suggests that microwave from cell phones can promote cancer. And this was obtained under the Freedom of Information Act. And that was 19 years ago, before any of this, or at least any of the cell phones came along in North America, certainly. In 2011, the Council of Europe, representing 47 different countries, a population of 800 million people, called for a ban on Wi-Fi and cell phones from all schools because they have potentially harmful effects on humans. BC's electric utilities could and should have selected fiber optic cable and established, which is an established, proven, safe, reliable, durable, robust, faster, and more secure technology that poses no threat whatsoever to anyone's health. It's also safer. It's impervious to radio frequency jamming and other such interferences. It also is less vulnerable to acts of mischief, terrorist acts, cyber attacks, solar storms, solar flares, electrical storms, and even against some electrical warfare weapons such as we have today. In May of 2011, the World Health Organization classified EMR from any emitter, including smart meters, cell phones, a class 2B carcinogen. In May of 2011, both the Council of Europe, 47 countries, 800 million people, and the European Parliament, 27 countries, 500 million people, examined the issue thoroughly and came to the same conclusion regarding the need to protect citizens from electromagnetic radiation, especially pregnant women, newborn babies, and children. Dr. Annie Sasko, PhD, 3 Harvard degrees, a PhD in epidemiology. She headed up the International Agency for the Research on Cancer for 22 years. She has come out publicly and said that despite what industry says, we have concrete evidence that EMR from cell phones and Wi-Fi cause cancer. She also said in public the International Conference on Cancer in Children in London of this year that EMR should be classified a probable carcinogen. When she got back to France, her position was no longer there. Numerous other world-class independent scientists say that EMR should be classified at least a probable carcinogen, if not a definite carcinogen. Contrary to what Ford BC claims, Professor Daniel Hirsch, PhD, a nuclear physicist in Santa Cruz, University of California, Santa Cruz campus, as well as the Public Health Department of Santa Cruz, they've done independent scientific studies that compare a cell phone to a smart meter. And contrary to what Fortis will tell you, a smart meter actually emits 45 to 450 times more whole body radiation to a cell phone. And smart meters cannot be turned off. Notwithstanding all of the above, the BC government continues to allow the electric utilities to install smart meters which have 2 wireless radio transmitters, although they only ever talk about 1. 2 wireless radio transmitters which emit Class 2B toxic millisecond long sharp pulses of microwave radiation. The LAN radio, the local area network, on 800 megahertz, and the Zigbee on 2.4 gigahertz. Contrary to what Fortis BC claims, local area network transmitters transmit Class 2B pulse millisecond long signals continuously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This was admitted by the executives of Silver Spring Networks to the California Public Utility Commission just last year. Contrary to what Fortis BC says, a smart meter's LAN, the local area network transmitter, transmits on average 14,000 pulses per day. That's every 6 seconds. That's on average, up to a maximum of 190,000 pulses per day. That's every 0.45 seconds. And this was stated in the court of law in California by the Pacific Gas and Electric. This is under oath. Conspicuously absent from Fortis BC's website is any mention of the Zigbee radio transmitter, receiver, and antenna circuit, which electric utilities everywhere envisage will control 15 or so smart appliances. This means that eventually every home is expected to have 17 or so separate wireless transmitter, receiver, antenna circuits, all of which will emit their own Class 2B millisecond long sharp pulses of non-thermal microwave radiation at intervals 24/7, 365 days a year in perpetuity. In a fully mature meshed grid network of 5,000 homes, which is what they standard, is their standard, in which every home has the envisaged 15 or so smart appliances, all residents of that community will be subjected to the sharp millisecond long pulses of non-thermal Class 2B microwave radiation from 85,001 pulse microwave transmitters in that community. 85,001. You'll never see it anywhere on any utility's website. And this includes also 5,000 local area networks, each of which has a range of 3 kilometers, which means that every home's meter will radiate every other home's meter in that entire neighborhood. Conspicuously absent from Fortis BC's website is any mention, let alone an estimate, of the overall aggregate amount of EMR residents likely would be exposed to in a mesh grid neighborhood 24/7, 365 days a year. Fortis website chooses not to mention either that whatever aggregate amount of EMR results from that community-wide mesh grid network, that amount would be added to the ambient level of EMR already in that neighborhood from all the other wireless devices. In the mesh grid community, it would be absolutely pointless for an individual home to opt out, as they would still be bathed by the blanket of radiation from all the other homes in that mesh grid network. So it has to be either the entire neighborhood does without it, or everybody has it. Smart meters have never been tested by Underwater's laboratory and proven to be safe, referring to the countless fires that have been experienced in virtually every jurisdiction in the world in which smart meters have been installed, for which no electric utility anywhere has acknowledged any culpability or accepted any financial responsibility. Insurance companies are not insuring smart meters for health-related issues. No country on earth yet knows what is a safe level, if in fact there is such a thing, for chronic exposure to low-level, non-thermal, biological effects of EMR for pregnant women, embryos, children, the sick, elderly, and all other life forms, including bees, animals, birds, insects, all sea life, plants, etc. on the 24/7, 365 days. And this affects your homes as well, and your families, and your grandchildren. Contrary to what Health Canada says, Canada's present exposure limits for the 2.4 gigahertz frequency range of 1,000 microwatts per centimeter squared is actually one of the highest, meaning the most dangerous in the world. Compare that to Austria, which is 10,000 times lower than ours. The Bio-Initiative Report 2007, which independent scientists around the world hold up as a reference Bible, they recommend that all governments all around the world adopt a standard of 0.1. Compare that to Canada's 1,000. For us to observe that or adopt that, we have to lower our standards by 10,000 times. Austria, which is the lowest, the best, if you like, the safest country in the world, their Salzburg Health Department recommends limits of 0.001 micros for indoor radiation, and for, I beg your pardon, for outdoor radiation, excuse me, or 0.0001 microwatts for indoors exposure. That would mean 1 million to 10 million times lower than our current radiation. Given all of the above, the citizens of those areas serviced by Fortis BC request that the BC Utilities Commission deny outright Fortis BC's application. Thank you.
I'd just like to, before I assign a number to your presentation, just confirm that you sent a letter into the Commission on November the 6th as well, regarding this application. Yes, okay, thank you, that helps me, because I just wanted to give your exhibit the right number. So if Mr. Flynn's written submission, right, marked exhibit C6-4. Jerry Ballard.
Good afternoon. My name's Gerald Blanner. I'm speaking for some other retired people, David and Sue King, and Howard and Edith Mortar. We are all subscribers of Fortis service. Before I begin, it seems that we have been asked a question: should Fortis be allowed to install smart meters? Now, I have a little story to tell before I make my main points, and it's this: that I was witness to Fortis installing a meter on a house at 789 Sortie Road in Kelowna, and I asked the installer why he took the old meter out and was replacing the analog meter with a digital meter. He said it was for recalibration purposes. When asked if this was a smart meter, the installer said no. When the installer was asked how a person could tell the difference between this meter and a smart meter, the installer said, "You can't." I asked again if this was a smart meter, and the installer said, "Talk to my partner." I asked the partner if this was a smart meter, and he replied, "I don't know. They just pay me $20 to install a meter, and I do what I'm told." The concern I have here is if we can't tell the difference between a smart meter and what are sometimes referred to as digital meters, and they can't tell you what the difference is, how do we know what we're getting on our house? Certainly these are being installed today because the one I just mentioned being installed at 789 Sortie Road was a new installation. They took out a perfectly fine working analog meter to replace it. And right across the street at 790 Sortie Road, there had been a digital meter installed for some time. So that is a question that makes one wonder whether these digital meters are going to just simply be converted to smart meters if you give them the go-ahead. They're putting meters in now that don't look any different than a smart meter. My first point is we believe the people of this province do not trust the government or big business enterprises to provide the people of this province with essential service to act in a fair, equitable, and accountable manner. In the matter of smart meters, we want this initiative canceled because we believe that with this metering system, potential charges for electric power can be unilaterally increased. In recent years, the provincial government or big business seem to have implemented or plan to implement or have encouraged the implementation of numerous initiatives that have not found favor with the people of BC. Examples are the harmonized sales tax, management of ferries and rapid transit, sale of public-owned utilities such as BC Hydro, BC Rail, possible construction of Enbridge Northern Gateway pipeline, and now this Fortis smart meter program. My second point, although there have been many submissions as to the safety of these so-called smart meters and the possible adverse effects of Hertzian waves upon humans, this is to say that we support this particular concern and believe that to err on the side of prudence is a safe thing to do in the face of non-effects or adverse effects being disputed by interest groups on both sides of the issue. My third point is although this submission also supports concerns about the invasions of customers' privacy on the part of Fortis, we have additional concerns that this whole initiative is to depart from a more or less flat rate billing system and to enter into a customer premium rate scale. In other words, to be in position to see the private residential practices of customers and force customers to change their lifestyle in order to minimize costs for electrical energy. This invasion of privacy issue is more about forcing people to change their lifestyle rather than snooping into their personal lives. Power companies have other means of monitoring power utilization and consumption without the necessity of using smart meters. It seems to us that Fortis could continue to have their fiscal needs met by the previous practice of applying for rate increases that would be scrutinized by the Public Utilities Commission and either granted, denied, or modified in accordance with that body's findings. One must wonder if profit motive is the issue here and if Fortis is not doing something similar to what oil companies and banks are doing to the citizens of this country by charging as much as the traffic will bear. Who will be next? Will it be the gas company, which is also owned by Fortis? And my last point is, it is obvious that Fortis would not wish to enter into the smart meter initiative if it was not to be in the company's best interest to do so. Our concern is for the many individuals who are and have been employed by Fortis in the reading, etc. of meters. These individuals may no longer be needed to perform their historic role in the power company's business and will now be obliged to seek other employment, either within or without the company, and perhaps to lose their jobs in a time when job loss is of paramount importance. Thank you.
Dollar has supplied me with copies of his presentation, Mr. Chairman. Written copy of the presentation -30. Ben Patrick. I've called Mr. Patrick twice, Mr. Chairman. He's the last person in this session who is pre-registered. I'll come back to him later, but I'm now going to involve
Thank you.
the individuals who we granted leave today. So Bev Allen.
I'd like to thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to talk and address the chair. Thank you. And thank you for all of you who came out. I live in Kelowna, not because I was kind of forced out by Fortis. I am Beverly Allen. I have a Fortis power lines going through my property. And since I've attended 2 of Jerry's seminars, I'm really worried about the fact that I'm going to present some facts. Number one, me and my family worked hard for over 100 years. I was proud of the fact of all our hard work. And we were called Peaceful Acres. We are called Peaceful Acres, but we have 500 kV lines running over my property. And BC Hydro, those are their lines, and Fortis. And on some issues, I have addressed the commissioner about these. But today, I am submitting the fact that our attention is to the smart meters and advanced meters. I will give you copies of the Fortis lines because I am concerned now after listening to Jerry and all the people of what the EMRs and radiation is. So, I guess my 3 most concerns is the health and safety, and you know, the EMR magnetic radiation is not limited to our health, and they've already listed the sleep disturbance, and I won't go over, like you said, the different symptoms that were the problems. But some of them were, I also looked up at www.magnethabis.org, symptoms of electrohydrosensitivity for radio sickness, and there can be pains in all kinds of parts of your body. And the magnetic hypersensitivity can make people ill. And myself, I spent several months over the summer and I got ill myself, and I made a copy of my EMG, but I won't put it as my exhibit, where I had prolonged QT intervals, which I was having very difficult arrhythmias, lower or higher. Now, I don't know if it was because I spent several months close to these power lines, but it has been brought to my attention by my cardiologist. I came over just for that. So I will not submit that, but it's a concern now that I've been faced with this radiation from these high voltage lines. And I'd like to know if you, as a utility commission, make the companies, now that we're aware that it's harmful, come out and give me a test of where it sits in my home as versus the lines going over my head, which I'll submit an exhibit for you to show you these lines. So again, there's safety hazards. I have a security system, like someone else again had said before. It can be interfered with for the monitoring, and it has been studied by Jerry Flynn, director from Electric Warfare, who you just said and heard from, that the World Health Organization has said it's cancer risks. And my concern is one of the measures of a QT interval, if this continues with my heart, is a pacemaker. So now if I got all these radio waves coming down, I won't even be able to live on my property. So yes, it's a concern, and I'm happy that there are people concerned here that have brought this to your attention. Again, I feel it's a Freedom of Information and Privacy Act. It's an invasion of all of our privacies. And I thank you all for bringing it to our attention and giving us time to talk here. I can't express how nice it is to hear all the different opinions. And I think that if Fortis is putting 47.7 million into hazardous meters when they could have used hardwire, line carriers, or fiber optics, which are more safer and acceptable, which I learned again from Jerry's presentation, they're doing in other countries and in Japan. And so, as I was going out the door, my son called, he's an engineer, and he says, I sent him what I was going to submit to you. And he said, well, I won't be letting them on my property because they haven't been proven safe. They are advanced smart meters that haven't got the CSA approval. Is this true or not? Do they have a CSA approval? Okay. They haven't been ULS tested. These are things that are being put on everybody's homes, and like he said, Jerry said, they probably aren't covered by insurance because of the CSA standards we have in Canada. So I can't figure this out. Why the government and health officials aren't getting on them for this, not having them CSA approved and not being ULS tested. Again, under Bill 17, 2010, the Clean Air Energy Act does not specify that pulse microwave radio transmitters, receivers, and antenna circuits must be used in smart advanced meters to provide the connectivity required in mesh grid network fiber optics or other wires. Therefore, I feel that it would be of all of our interest if the Commission could really turn down this application until we have more help and more, we need more proof that it's not going to harm us more with all the cancer and the EMRs. So I thank you all again for your attention and for you giving us the opportunity to talk, as I did not know about this, and you were kind enough to let me know. So there again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I will submit this exhibit.
This is Ellen's written submission. Might be marked the next exhibit, which will be E31. Walter Schradel.
Gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Walter Schradel. I'm a professional engineer registered in British Columbia, Alberta, Nevada, and Oregon. And I also have a refrigeration trade practice ticket embedded with an electrical B ticket, A and B gas tickets, which I earned 1975, 1977, and 79, respectively.
May I ask you to just comment on whether you're a Fortis electricity customer?
I'm a Fortis PC customer,
Thank you.
ever since, for many, many years.
Thank you.
My field of practice for over 40 years was in mechanical engineering and controls, as well as in the trades themselves. One thing I don't want to expound, it's been said already about the health issues, etc. One thing that concerns me, that in British Columbia, it is possible for people that are not qualified electrical contractors or trade people to install those meters without a permit. In the province of Alberta, as I know, you require a trade qualification as an electrician to do the installation of any metering device on a residence or commercial property. If you get caught, and I as an engineer had to do this on a number of projects, I had to shut the project down during installation and get the people removed who then, in one case, refused to do so. And the police was then called in and removed them because it is illegal to do this kind of work without the proper qualifications. In reference to the, shall we say, mechanics of the system, the land system, local area network system, that these smart meters need to participate in. The smart meter, by the way, just to use standard language that people understand, is basically quite stupid on its own. It cannot provide the information back to this main server at whatever site Fortis BC or anybody else chooses to do. And without the participation of, as Gary was mentioning, I believe it was 5,000 or so, shall we say, at least a few hundred to make it possible, your metering system will not work. I have from the LAN system, control systems that is extensively used for controlling pumping system, HVAC systems, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, refrigeration plants, etc. The industry that is controlled by an organization called ASHRAE, American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers. These people have done away with the acceptance of the LAN systems, specifically those that use microwave EMRs for carrier of their signals. Specifically, they have established the background for what is known as the BACnet system, which is wired. Totally safe, and that is not just in terms of radiation, but in terms of operation. You cannot interfere with a wire as long as the wire is intact. And I strongly suggest to this panel, your commission, to, as part of the moratorium, to guide people like Fortis BC to look, this was done in the state of Idaho, to go with a metering device, smart and whatever, that is wired. You've got the wiring system in place as it is. My house is connected with wires to the system. Use them. And as I also was given to understand, I may stand correct, but the wireless technology meters are more expensive than those that use the hardwired system. On a positive note, and specifically in reference to, shall we say, the green initiatives that are in Canada as well as the United States, we are asked to provide system technologies that will provide, shall we say, a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. As I was given to understand, the smart meters will not permit the reversal of energy. In other words, if my house is able to produce more energy from, say, a photovoltaic system or whatever, my analog meter currently installed will run backwards. In other words, helping the utility provide the energy needs of my neighbors or whoever else wants to use it. If the smart meter system is installed, that option is gone. And I don't think it is in the best interest of Canada as a whole, or the world at that. And specifically, I'm referring to in the last, well, I've been studying this for the last 5 years. Through the Freedom of Information Act, it has been published that there are devices available other than so that use magnetic power without any radiation whatsoever. 3 patents, I have them in my own home. You know, there's people that have been killed over this kind of thing. I'm referring to Edwin Gray and you know, late in the 80s and Stanley Meyer in the 90s. These things are out there. It can be used if people want to build them themselves and provide this alternate energy source. The moment you put smart meters in the community, that option is gone. And I don't think that is in the interest of the Canadian Green Initiative. Here's you know, on a very positive note, here's with the installation of other than the so-called smart meters. Let's have people like Fortis or BC Hydro participate in the positive research and aid the individuals that may be interested in doing it. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Schradel, you don't have a written copy of your submission. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Barry Gordichuk.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barry Gordichuk. I reside on Green Road, Lakeshore, in Kelowna, and I'm serviced by Fortis. And first of all, I don't have the technical background that most of the speakers have here today. And Mr. Chairman, I heard you loud and clear when you said you're not looking for any redundancy, so forth and so forth. So my presentation here will be brief, but I think it's important. In view of what we've heard here today from some very qualified people, making some very qualified statements that have been substantiated, I guess I formally ask the Utilities Commission to support and ensure a motion that the smart meters will not go forth. And I do, my small contribution was, I have attended seminars that other gentlemen in this room have presented, and I found them very enlightening. In my particular occupation, and with electronics, I quote-unquote go to a meeting every morning in Oslo, Norway, every evening in Sydney, Australia, Houston, Texas, and Sofia, Bulgaria. And I can tell you this whole radiation issue, with everything from microphones to cell phones to cordless phones to microwaves to these type of devices, smart metering devices, are of great concern globally. And with that, I very respectfully have 2 CDs here. One is entitled Smart Meter and EMR, The Health Crisis of Our Time. The second is Dr. Glenn Chase, Smart Meter, Lies and Exposures, and it's by the PAR Film Organization. And with your permission, I'd like to leave that with your board. And I'd like to thank.
If we can accept that as evidence.
And what I'll do, Mr. Chairman. First, if I might, I need to check with the hearing officer in terms of the technological side of things, because we do generally post everything on the website unless a confidentiality order has been made. And so I want to make sure that this isn't going to create any problems from a posting standpoint, so that it will not only be available to the commission panel, but it will be available to
I have
other
no
parties.
issues with confidentiality, sir, if that's your question.
No, I know that, but it's, what I was trying to say was that everything gets posted on the
I understand
website unless there's a confidentiality ruling. This one won't have a confidentiality ruling, but I want to make sure that there isn't an issue with us being able to post that, the information that's on those discs on the website, so that everyone else will have access to it as well.
I understand. I don't know that. Is there anybody that can help me with that answer? Is this copywritten material? To the best of my knowledge and to the best of the knowledge of others in this room, it's not copywritten material, but I cannot swear that.
Perhaps what you should do then is you could make the filing later, if you wanted, under your name with a letter of comment, but with the clarification that there aren't any copyright issues in terms of the commission posting this information.
I'm prepared to make a declaration right now, this is not copywritten material.
Who created the material?
The material was created by the authors of each one.
Right.
Their
So,
presentations,
Yes.
similar to those we've heard here.
yes, but the ones that we've heard here, people have made their own presentations, such as Mr. Cliff. These are
May I
materials.
ask you a question, sir?
Yes,
Why
I'll
are
try
you-
and answer it.
Why are you being so closed-minded about this? I mean, whatever it is or it isn't, if it benefits this committee, these people, our population, our community, it should be heard.
We want to make sure.
Is that correct, ladies and gentlemen?
We want to make sure that we're not breaching any copyright by posting material that is the subject of copyright. So,
Okay, I said I'm prepared to make a declaration.
so that if I could ask you to do this, if you could get confirmation from the authors of that material,
Are you rejecting this material, sir?
until you get confirmation from the
So I can
authors of the
take it that
material,
you're rejecting this material?
until you get confirmation from the authors. If you get before you leave, Mr. Gorchak, I want to be clear. If you get confirmation from the authors, and you send a letter into the commission that you've got confirmation from the authors, and here are the discs, then they will get posted.
Mr. Chairman, in closing, there again, the most important statement I can make is I respectfully ask the Utilities Commission to support and ensure a moratorium on smart meters. And with that, I thank you kindly for your time.
Thank you.
So Mr. Gorchak doesn't have a written copy of his presentation, Mr. Chairman. Stephen Pop?
Thank you for listening to me. I live in Kelowna. My name is Stefan Pop. I live in a brand new apartment building, which has in total 64 apartments with, of course, 64 analog meters. I'm not going to present technical issues which were presented before me. I'm going to present exactly the situation we have in our building there. Our unit is adjacent with the electric meters room. We live on second floor, and we have the meters room serving 34 apartments. There is another room on the fourth floor, which has also about 33 meters and is adjacent to the apartment next to it. Our bedroom wall is exactly opposite to all these meters installed in there. I can show a picture I took there. So this is one bank of meters, and there are two banks of meters like this, which are on our bedroom wall. If these analog meters will be replaced with smart meters, we will have the situation which was presented here, 1 meter per one house. We will have it multiplied by 64 next to our bedroom. That will be affecting us the most, but also will affect the whole building, because the radiation from these meters goes to at least 2 miles. Like I said before, we live in a brand new building which doesn't have a strata yet. That's why I'm presenting this unofficially. The strata will be formed in January, as I was told. Until then, this is the only thing I can present right now, our situation. And the theory of smart meters, which was presented before, should be taken into account for our particular situation. In the situation, these smart meters will be installed by Fortis. I forgot to say I'm a Fortis customer. In the situation that these meters will be installed, I would like to know if proof will be obtained that actually these smart meters will radiate around. If there is any way Fortis will install them, can before installation provide any protection so these smart meters will not affect people around, or can provide, like it was said before, other ways, other technologies which could be applied, which don't produce this type of effect. In the case that these installers, based on the approval of this application, will come, I would like to know, in our particular situation, what should we do? When we bought the apartment, the builder told us that these meters are installed and are there to stay. We asked in particular, because we knew about this situation about smart meters before, we asked in particular if this will be replaced, and the builder said, these are going to stay, no one is going to replace them. In the situation they will be replaced, what are we going to do? Are we going to live with 34 meters on our head, plus the 34 meters above on the fourth floor, 64 meters? Are we going to sell the apartment, or what are we going to do? This is all what I have to say. I just presented a particular case based on the theory which was presented before. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Falk has provided me with the photographs of the meters, or copies of photographs of the meters and also a sketch of relating to the meters. So if that might be marked. Robert Miles.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Robert Miles. I live on Saskatoon Road in Kelowna, which is Fortis service area. As a longtime advocate of energy conservation, I reluctantly feel that I must provide my perspective on the above referenced application. The more I read in the press, the more I feel people do not understand the environment they live within. From the very first Homo sapien that existed, and long before, up to the present day, we have lived within the electromagnetic environment of our solar system. When Edison and Tesla devised and developed the means to produce and transmit electric power, we began inviting that electromagnetic environment into our homes. Today, our homes are replete with electromagnetic fields, which were developed by ourselves for our convenience. We have thought of nothing of electric lights, stoves, and refrigerators, to microwaves, TV sets, home computers, and cell phones. Each of these devices in our homes and places of work, each with their own individual electromagnetic field, and each field conflicting and interfering with every other field. We think nothing of all this, accepting it as normal. We even marvel at some of it when it produces spectacular light displays in the night sky. But when some proposal for a cell phone relay, or in this instance advanced metering, is made, people make a big stink about the electromagnetic field that will be created by the device that is reputed to cause cancer because someone used their computer to search the internet for unverified information. The introduction of advanced metering, or to use the vernacular, smart meters, is the next necessary step to managing the electric power system for the benefit of all its users. First, it will allow Fortis and BC Hydro to monitor the usage of power by all their customers to the extent that they will know minute to minute who is using power at any given time, how much is being used, where the greatest use is, and how that use has changed during the last hour. This will allow the utility to bring additional generation online as use increases or drop it as it declines. It will also allow for the redirection of power from one part of the system to another as load requirements change, or the purchase of power to meet loads beyond system capacity in a more timely manner than is currently possible. Residential, industrial, and commercial power users should also benefit in a reverse manner. By accessing their account, they should be able to see the power use for the previous 24 hours, enabling them to see how they use power and then change their use of power and see the results almost immediately. For the industrial and commercial users, with the assistance of the utility, monitoring their use through additional subsystem metering to better direct conservation and cost reduction efforts becomes a more real possibility. Further benefit will arise in the reconfiguration of rate structures. The current increasing block rate structures are a blunt instrument for managing power use. It basically says that all power used after a base amount pays a higher rate regardless of when that power is used. If you, as a ratepayer, use the base amount by the 20th of any month, all power used beyond that gets charged the higher rate. The incentive to modify your power use is not great because all your power use is not charged at the highest rate. If, on the other hand, smart meters allow for the establishment of different block rates, the benefit of modifying power use should be greater. Assume, for instance, as an electric heat customer, your bill were to show the following. 1. a daily base block that would be constant throughout the year. 2, a daily second block that would show your daily use rise and fall with the heating and cooling seasons of the year. 3, a peak hour block that shows how much power was used during a prescribed peak hour period that could show A, the total amount of power used in that period, or B, the amount of power used in that period above an average hourly use determined from 1. 4, a final block that would show extreme power use. With this sort of information and the utility to, or the ability to access your account, which would show a ratepayer how they use electricity, each ratepayer would be better able to manage how they use power on a daily and seasonal basis. This in turn would help the utility manage the system for peak hour demand. Regardless of what the Commission's decision will be with regard to this application, the installation of smart meters will proceed. By this, I do not suggest that Fortis will proceed with a system-wide remetering. It will proceed in the following manner. All new construction will have smart meters installed. If this is not being done already, I will be very surprised. 2, every time a meter is changed out because of testing requirements, a smart meter will be put in its place. 3, each time an account is closed and a new account opened, the analog meter will be replaced with a smart meter. Ultimately, the system will be remetered. This only means that the remetering of the system will take a decade or more to accomplish, at greater expense to all ratepayers with the benefits delayed until sufficient meters have been changed to the data available, or to have the data available to justify and support rate changes. The advanced metering infrastructure project is a justifiable project economically in present costs and future ratepayer benefits and for system management. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm reminded of your comments that we began today about presentations being made in a courteous fashion.
Thank you.
Bullshit. You know what that is? Bullshit.
Thank you.
Is Ken here yet? No response, Mr. Chairman. That then concludes the presenters list for this afternoon.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and remind you that Erica Hamilton does have a free presentation that we put off at the beginning because of the large number of people we had to accommodate. We had to make some additional seating arrangements, but the short presentation will just give you some insight into the Utilities Commission, what it is we do, and the framework within which we operate, and more specifically how this application fits into that, and also some reference material, reference places you can go to obtain additional information. So if you want to stay for that, I encourage you to do so. On my behalf and the behalf of my colleagues, I'd like to thank everyone who made a presentation today. I appreciate the fact that you've had to spend considerable time to gather your thoughts and distill them into a cogent presentation, and I know that that's not always an easy task, but receiving your input as part of this hearing process is an important step, and so we do appreciate you taking the time to do that and coming to share your thoughts with us today. Thank you.
Autocracy where the corporations end up making all the decisions for the people, and the people have no say because the corporation has gathered so much power that they are an entity unto themselves and operate independently completely independently of the people. It just sounds like something out of a very strange and twisted movie, science fiction that is, in the sense that you would apply, a very high-tech technology in people's houses that might have very detrimental consequences for the people who are living there. And that's with a lot of research. I mean, not that I've done tons of research, but I'm aware of a lot of the studies that have been done, and the World Health Organization for a couple that have said it's possibly detrimental, and I'm sure that it is. And I just find it strange that this would be just put into people's houses all over a massive area without their consent, but just told it's for their own good. And it just seems to be operating, the government and corporations operating in a very big brother, heavy-handed way, like, we know what's good for you and we're going to do it. It doesn't matter what you think or say because that's the way it's going to be because we've decided and you're just going to have to accept it. And I don't understand where the liability is going to go. Once this is put in, let's say it happens, then there seems to be a whole lot of cases of fires and a lot of health risks. And how is that going to be, in the future with those issues? Is there just going to be so much money behind the big companies like Fortis and BC Hydro and stuff that they'll just hire lawyers and say, oh, well, it's nothing to do with us. We have this big stack of scientists who say that it's ridiculous that these meters could possibly cause health hazards or be unhealthy in any way. And then also with the financial end, if people have increased bills, are they just going to fight that too and say that, make up some reason why they have the bill that doesn't reflect the fact that they put in, it's the difference between the analog meter and the smart meter? It just seems to me it's good, that if they put them in, then there'll be this huge legal issue that's going to come into play. I'd say within maximum a few years, and there's going to be a huge battle between the people who realize it's a big mistake and the utility companies who are trying to make a lot of money and want it for those reasons and perhaps others. And they're going to use their money and influence to try and keep it that way. So I just find it highly questionable, and I don't see any real merit in doing it, especially not without a full and complete transparency by them and a lot of going over the dangers and the possible dangers of the and real benefits, if there are any, that is, for the smart meters. I mean, Canada is supposedly a democracy, but it doesn't sound so far from a democracy, it's not even funny. I mean, anyways, I can't think of much else to say, but yeah, I don't think letting the smart meters go, and I can't see it leading to any good for anyone except for the people who are connected to Fortis and stand to gain financially and in other ways. And I see there's really little or no benefit for the common people who are going to be stuck with them if that happens. I mean, personally, if it was me in your shoes, hey, I would not feel good in my conscience to have ever supported such a wonderful that would, I think, be a terrible thing. And I can't see how you could possibly think they're good and a benefit to us or to you, to your families and your kids and grandkids. You know, I mean, everyone. I think it means that you know, we would be happy, just as happy that they weren't at our house and affecting us in a bad way, as they weren't at your house affecting you in a bad way and causing you, and as well as causing you overpaying bills and some problematic and less reliable power meter than was there in the first place. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Atchison.
I'll be very brief. I just want to say that in 1988, I lived in a community called Janelle, BC, which you probably drove through when you went to trail. But anyway, at that time, we were having windows rattling, there was blasting going on in the watershed up the hill. And so we went to the government office in Nelson and asked what was going on. And they said, big headlines in the paper, hogwash, there's no such thing happening. Well, we had broken dishes and some people had broken windows. So we kept persisting and we went to Nelson again and asked about it, and suddenly there was a backdated permit 3 weeks previous. And they admitted, yes, there was blasting going on in the watershed, and they were leaving holes that were 8 feet across and 10 feet deep that weren't filled in again. And anyway, the community was split up. Half the community said, you can't fight the government, and the other half of us said, well, of course, this is our water. This is our children's water. And we fought it for 3 months. We organized and we got picket lines. And at one point, a busload of a riot squad came. I don't know who they thought was on this picket line, but anyway, we went on the bus and asked them if they'd like to come and have some lemonade. And they were sitting there with their helmets and their sticks, which can only be ordered by the Governor General of Canada, that type of riot squad. But anyway, they said, get the F off this bus. They weren't too friendly, even though we were offering them refreshments. But anyway, we had a picket line up, and eventually the picket line was smashed through and one of the fellows got a broken arm. And I was in the group that sat on the road so they couldn't get up to get the core samples. And the cat came like this far from our face, this big bulldozer, and I knew the guy that was driving it. I thought, oh, he's really gonna go over us for sure. But anyway, the point being that we fought that as best we could, and we actually went to court, and it changed the law in Canada that people have a right to protect their watershed. So my point in bringing all this up is that do we not have the same right to protect our health and the health of our families?
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the list of speakers for this community input session.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. I'd like to thank people for coming out this evening, and thank people